Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to Un Poco Mas. My name is DannyDealz. It is Friday, April 14th, 2023. Today, I would like to talk with you about the NIO stock, ticker symbol NIO. This stock has been basically trading pretty low, slight upward momentum over the last 30 days. But overall, the stock is near its lows of the last couple of years. This is one of those retail stocks that just went absolutely insane during the COVID times, kind of ran up along with Tesla. A lot of people thought it was going to be the Tesla of China. Well, in hindsight, Tesla is the Tesla of China, and BYD is the Tesla of China, and other companies that are making more EVs than NIO are the Tesla of China, and Tesla actually being a very focused company. They make really one model. I know people are like, well, it's the Model Y and the Model 3, but those are really the same car. The underpinnings of them are just one is sort of this. Hatchback SUV configuration, and one is like a more traditional sedan. But on the drivetrain, batteries, all this type of thing, they share most of the components. So that's why Tesla has been able to grow so fast and dial in that manufacturing that they had so many problems with initially on the Model 3 because you notice there is no Cybertruck. The semi is just coming out. Like a lot of the things everybody thought Tesla would be doing by now in terms of breadth of their product line, they just haven't done because I think quite intelligently they've taken the product that most people want and that they can scale very quickly so they can increase production and they got to profitability. And I think that is a good lesson for Neo, who is trying to do a whole hell of a lot of stuff. Let's take a look at what happened to Neo on the day. Opened at 9:07, had closed at 9:10 previous week. We're up 17 cents to $9.27 on the day. Basically, the stock pumped all the way up to about almost 950, crashed back down to 915, and then traded sideways in sort of an algo hold the rest of the day, down 1 penny after hours to $9.26. Um, what's been going on with the Neo stock? Well, basically, there's been a lot of news in terms of their projections for 1,000 battery swap stations this year, for 250,000 vehicles this year, for expansion into Europe, for all of these new models. But you know, the performance and the execution has been a little bit lackluster, and Neo's delivery numbers were down in Q1. They only delivered 31,000 vehicles roughly, so they're saying if they're going to deliver another almost 220,000 over the coming 9 months, or the 9 months counting April, they're going to have to more than double production, and they certainly have the factory space to do it, but do they have the supply chain in order? Do they have all their materials in order? Do they have their tooling in order? Is the supply chain is the factory and the production line actually running at full capacity? I mean, there's no doubt that Neo Park, their factory, NEO Park, their factory there with Jax can produce 20,000 plus cars per month. There's absolutely no doubt about it, but it just it hasn't happened. So that's what all these articles keep talking about, is like the proof is in the pudding. Now, over the short term, in 5 days, Neo is really riding this support line nicely. So we're getting just a little bit of upward momentum. We had again one pump here, but if you take that out, since 4-5, we've been on this neat little support line. So we're finding a little bit of support there. And then over like a longer period of time, Neo has been trading in this little channel since like the beginning of October, um, 2022, and then dropped back down to the $9.45 level, came up, dropped back down to the $9.80 level, came back up, dropped back down and hit, like $9 again, came back down to I don't know exactly what this level is, 826, 825, bounced off the support line again. And then from there, we found this little upward trend line that we've been shooting off of and finding support on for the last 10 days. And we've tested that now for the third time. So you kind of have these like dueling triple bottoms. You've got 1, 2, 3 in the short term, and you've got 1, 2, 3 in the long term. But this really doesn't mean anything. This is very, very weak. You have to come off convincingly and break through this line at what would be about $12, and then shoot off up in this direction if you want to see any type of breakout on the stock. Where would that breakout go? I mean, obviously, the first thing you have to do is get through, the $10 level, which has been very sticky. And then from there, you have to break through, like this 1250 level. And then from there, there's a lot of room to run. But if you can't get some buyers into the stock because there's just no news and deliveries have been lackluster and there is just a lot of questions swirling around the stock. Investor Place loves to put out these little dueling articles. They have one of their authors, of course, Louis Navalier, who's the famous investor, growth stock investor. He's always, big neo bear, so the numbers don't add up in Investor Place. This is on the 11th. And there's got to take this with a grain of salt. But he's talking about how the delivery trajectories are weak, that management has wishful thinking, that 250,000 is basically a pipe dream and it's a stretch, and that he's saying like Neo has some promise, but it's a wait and see approach. He's saying don't rush into a Neo stock position, and the market's current on the fence view is on the money. I can't really argue with the sentiments in this article. And then we go over to another article in Investor Place, Chris McDonald on April 8th, and he's saying that clearly that Neo is a buy. So he's talking about how even though the growth has been a little bit slower this year, still a very good trajectory, strong fundamentals, recent partnership with Norwegian smart energy company named Tibber. And that particular partnership, I just take a note, little sidebar here, little sidebar. Um, that particular partnership, I think, is more important than people think, because that's going to integrate with Neo's home charging, and it's going to charge people's cars when energy is the cheapest and energy is the most abundant. So this is kind of the promise of electric vehicles that we've been hearing about, that they'll not only charge smart, but they can put power back into the grid. All of these things that have been sort of the promise of EVs, these things are combining a technology energy management company with Neo's capabilities and their software, and we are seeing, finally that coming together, that nexus where it's actually going to pay off and pay dividends for not only for Neo but for the Neo customer who's going to be able to charge their vehicle more cost effectively. Finally, Chris says it's a buy. With the popularity of EVs and the Chinese government loosening its grip on tech companies, NIO is looking very promising for investors. For the past 5 years, the business has experienced exceptional progress in both sales and earnings per share, and this trajectory is expected to last. Another article, Motley Fool, the other day, April 14th, actually today, Christopher Ruin. Could NIO stock ever get to $100? NIO's a long way off its highs. Um, this is an interesting article. I took her. I went, give it a read, but it's basically talking about the Neo price point. It ran, topped out around $60. This was a huge pump, completely unjustified, way too early. I think most people knew that this type of whenever you see this type of slope on a graph that's just going straight up, unless they just announced a complete cure for cancer, or you know some breakthrough in like nuclear fusion or something, like it's not gonna, an auto company that just announced a new model is never gonna, shouldn't necessarily run from like 3 to 60 overnight. This stock literally went from like $3 on May 6th, 2020, and then, like 6, 7 months later, the stock's at $62. So, if you bought up there, you kind of deserve to lose your money because you're a moron. But in any case, no. I mean, many of us buy shares up there on FOMO, and Obviously we've been hit very, very hard coming down from 60 all the way under $10, but that's just the way it is. Will the stock ever get up to $100? I think that NIO stock price could hit 100 in the medium to long term if it shows the right progress, but for now, I still see its competitive advantage is far less defined from Tesla. That matters a lot given how competitive yeah, Tesla has a lot of advantages with their charging network. NIO has the battery swap as their USP, unique selling point, but they're selling so few units right now. They just don't have the penetration. They don't have the name recognition. I know they're a good kind of cult product within China, but they have to get some market share before anything happens. They have no market share in Europe. They have very, very little now the ET5, on the other hand, was just the other day. I can't remember the article. I think it was in the CNEV Post, but I saw some numbers that the ET5 was like the sixth or seventh most popular luxury sedan in China. So that is very, very encouraging. And if you watch my last video, that's why I said NIO needs to focus. They have way too much going on. So if you look at where NIO has been, they've basically been, I would say, trading sideways and building support for an entire year now. They came down to like $14 a couple times a year ago, and ever since then, I would say the stock has kind of just bled sideways and consolidated. So whether it's a quintuple bottom, a 50 bottom, a two triple bottoms, long term and short term, whatever you want to call it, we've seen buying pressure now down in this area over and over and over and over for the last year, and it's going to be hard to take the stock down too much lower. Now, let me zoom out so I can pull up the short interest data and just take a look over the last 3 months. While the short interest value estimate has fallen slightly, that's just because the stock price is a lot lower than it was. The estimated short interest percentage of the free float has increased 7% to 7%. The percentage of free float on loan has increased 55% from 8 to 13%. The shares on loan also increased 55% from 110 million to 172 million. And the days to cover have increased by 113% to 3.88. The cost to borrow has increased 12% to 0.72. And the utilization percentage has increased 48% to 34.56. So we see, there's not going to be any short squeeze. That's a term that gets used far too often. But however, there could certainly be buying pressure from shorts covering. That's different than a short squeeze. It's not going to happen all at once. We're not going to see rocket ships. Again, this is not a company that is moving extremely quickly and there's huge catalysts that are like changing the world. At the end of the day, it's a car company. It's a software company. It's going to be like incremental changes, incremental increases in manufacturing numbers, and hopefully incremental increase in the stock price. Will NIO ever get back to $100? It certainly could. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. If you want to check out Investor Place, again, they have dueling articles on NIO being a buy right now and NIO being sort of a hold, wait and see right now. I don't see a lot of people saying NIO is a horrible value down around the $9 level. If you just take a look at it, in fairness, this stock was up, like I said, to $60 in January 2021. And it hasn't been, this is the same level it was on February 1st, 2019. So I don't think there's a whole lot of room left for the stock to fall unless something dramatic happens, war or, accounting scandal or just something unforeseen. Right now, I think they are going to increase production, even if it's slowly, but I think it could be rapidly. Management is playing a very dangerous game if they're just announcing they're confident at 250,000 units and they don't come anywhere close to that number. The stock is going to get absolutely hammered. So we'll have to see what happens. Is NIO a buy right now? I certainly like the stock at $9.27. I think there's very little upside, very little downside, lots of upside, but that's just my opinion. Sorry, I'm talking too fast and stumbling over some words. It is very late on a Friday. I've been working on taxes, but I appreciate you guys watching. My name is DannyDealz. The show is Un Poco Mas for Hurricane Lopez. I hope you guys have a great Friday, a great rest of your weekend, and we will talk at you about the NIO stock and all kinds of other happy investing topics on Monday.